there, welcome to Boxing Deep Dive. I'm Lyndon Hosking, and as always, great to have you along for another episode of Dream Fights. This is where we match up two great fighters from the past and present, or both, whatever it might be, and we break it all down, analyse it, and reveal who we think would win and why. So I'm going to introduce my co-host for this episode. It's the one and only Grant Tassie Brown. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks, Lyndon's living the boxing dream, mate.
I hear you, mate. I hear you. But look, hopefully this will take you away from all that. The June 11th promotion. You're gonna have a bit of fun with this one because it's an interesting one. We'll get onto it in a sec. But I've been asked a lot for these fighters. Well, particular one fighter in this one, the Rocky Marciano one. It's been pretty tough, I must admit, to find a suitable opponent for him. I've gone for a pretty tough one for him this episode, of course. Before we get into that, of course, we'll get into the poll from last week. Now, it was Carlos Monzon, Bernard Hopkins. Now, I think you went for Carlos Monzon.
Monzon, just.
And I went for Hopkins, just as well. So the polls are in. We had a pretty good response to this one. And 60% went for Bernard Hopkins. 40% went for Carlos Monzon. There was no knockout to all decisions. So, you know, as we said last week, probably could have gone either way, but that was a great matchup, that one, Monzon-Hopkins. So we'll try and keep them coming. If you have got a request out there, send them in, and we'll do our best to cover it. But on to this week's Tassie. As I said, I've been asked a lot about trying to get Rocky Marciano into a dream fight. Well, I've got him in this week, but I don't think we're really going to like the guy we've chucked him in with because he is Iron Mike Tyson. The one and only Iron Mike. He's going to take on Rocky Marciano. I haven't actually put the particulars on there, but I think we'd have to make it at the MGM Grand, I would say, for obviously the World Heavyweight title. I'm thinking probably late 80s, early 90s Tyson, and probably mid-50s for Rocky Marciano. But what I will say, Tassie, is where's Mike Altamura where you need him as far as the story inside goes as far as Rocky Marciano. I must admit, obviously we all know his record, we know everything sort of about him, but so many little particulars that were hard to sort of, get some dirt on.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, Mike would have been good, mate. But I mean, look, this is a really good matchup. This is something that's I've read in magazines growing up, like Ring Magazine. It's a good matchup because size-wise, they sort of match up quite well. I mean, they both weren't the biggest heavyweights. So they're not like a Klitschko or a Lennox Lewis or a Tyson Fury. They're sort of, the smallest could have maybe even been cruiserweights. But I mean, size-wise, it's quite a good matchup. And Tyson was, the undisputed champion of the world. He won all the belts, and Marciano, holds the longest reign, defenses, the record of, without losing a fight, 49-0. Yeah. So I mean, look, it's a good fight stylistically.
Yeah, it is. Well, let's have a look at the first combatant, and that is Iron Mike Tyson. You can see there 50-6, 44 KOs. He's won the heavyweight title multiple occasions. First won it in 1986 with the WBC heavyweight title. Backed it up in the next fight for the WBA title. And then 2 fights after that, he won the IBF heavyweight title. Regained it in 1996, the WBC version, and then later that year, the WBA version. So you can see there some of his best wins. The title win over Trevor Berbick. The 6th round knockout of Pinklon Thomas, which was a really good one because Thomas was an ex-heavyweight champion and was probably deemed or looked at as the next Larry Holmes. The 12th round decision over a very underrated Tony Tucker. 7th round knockout over Olympic gold medalist Tyrell Biggs, former champion Larry Holmes. Probably the biggest heavyweight fight in a lot of years was the fight with Spinks in 1988. Twice beat Frank Bruno in 89 and 96. Had the 2 wins over Razor Ruddock. And then probably his last big win was the 1st round knockout of Bruce Seldon in 1996. Inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2011. So not a lot you can probably say about Mike Tyson. It hasn't really been said before, Tassie, but when he first came into the sport and onto the scene, I think they had him pretty much fighting twice a month. He was so busy. But at the time, they named him Kid Dynamo, and he was just a wrecking ball when it came to his opponents, wasn't he?
Yeah, mate. Look, he come up under the great Customato. Had that peekaboo stance.
Yep.
Like, I mean, D'Amato trained the great Floyd Patterson and Jose Torres. Floyd Patterson was the youngest person heavyweight before Mike Tyson. So
Yep.
D'Amato trained both the youngest heavyweight champions. And, mate, look, you know, when I say Mike Tyson at his best, Mike Tyson, when he had the movement, the side to side, to make a miss and to counter all the weight from his legs, and he had those big, thick legs with the hooks. And he had a really good, he had a very an aggressive defense. Like he'd be aggressive, but he'd be constantly moving his head. When he stopped moving his head and would come in just like this, straight on, not off center.
Yeah.
That's when he sort of was downhill. He just come in like this and take what they used to get. But when he was moving, coming up, mate, he was great. I mean, and look, he had a crazy life around him. He came from the streets of Brownsville. I think he lost most of his family at a young age. He didn't really have anyone good around him until he met Customato and Customato's wife. And I think Kevin Rooney was good and Teddy Atlas. Obviously, he was always destined for the life to take over, Mike. I mean, the lights and the cameras and the women and the money and the scavengers and the peasants that hang around and try and take fighters and destroy them and to try to jump on the bandwagon. Mike was always destined to sort of fail on the outside of boxing because he never had the right mental capacity and he constantly needed someone around in his life that was good. Well, when Customato died, then he had Don King, Robin Gibbons around him. He got rid of Kevin Rooney, who I thought was the last good influence on him. So, like, in the ring, he was a beast at his best. But unfortunately in life, Lyndon, life's just not just a boxing ring. You got to control your life on the outside. And you can have the money, the fame, the riches, and the women, and the cars, and the jewelry. But if you don't know how to control all that, then it all goes. If you lose in the ring, you're only good while you're winning. When you're losing, the jewelry, the money, the watches, the girls, that all goes. So he was never destined to sort of be successful in life as he liked. He's going good now, I think, and I'm really happy for him because I thought he'd be dead by now, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But he seems to be good with the podcast and the marijuana farms and all that stuff. But, look, he was a great fighter. He'd done more than most. There's an argument that he might have been overrated. There's an argument that we might not know how good he would have been. At his peak, it's hard to say anyone beats him. But how long was his peak for? It probably wasn't that long. And after the peak, it was a big downhill spiral. So, look, the Mike Tyson that fought Michael Spinks that night can probably beat anyone.
Yeah.
But does he do it constantly against bigger guys like the Foremans, the Alis, the Listons, the Lennox Lewis's in his prime?
Yeah.
But look, he won an undisputed title. Lyndon, he had 3 belts. He come and regained one of the belts later. He's still famous today. At the time, he was the baddest man on the planet. And he'll eat for free at any restaurant in the world for as long as he lives.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson is Mike Tyson. He was the biggest name in boxing. Lyndon, he probably still is the biggest name in boxing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And look, I do agree with you as far as, the outside influences. And it's a real shame because I'm really, I suppose, disappointed that he wasn't strong enough outside of the ring. We all know what he was like inside the ring, but he wasn't. I feel really bad for him that he wasn't strong enough at the time to tell Don King to piss off, tell all his hangers-on to piss off, tell Robert Gibbs to piss off. I know it's good in hindsight, but the thing is that there's no coincidence. You talked before about the head movement, the way he used to fight, the work rate. Mate, there's no coincidence that all ended the day he fired Kevin Rooney. It's as simple as that. Up to that point, he was an absolute beast. Not just the head movement, the work rate. He would get over these guys for a heavyweight. He just, a bit like the Joe Fraser mold, but he could punch harder than Fraser. But the work rate was there. When he got rid of Kevin Rooney, the work rate went out the window. The head movement went out the window. He got heavier. And he just wasn't the same fighter. And I can't believe that pretty much his prime was over when he was like 23 years old. For a heavyweight, it's just so disappointing that that's the way it turned out. And that's why I think up to that point he was well on track to being in the top echelon of the all-time heavyweight greats. But after that happened, you know, I can understand the argument that he didn't measure up to those really all-time greats because of that. But geez, up to that point, up to he beat Michael Spinks, I don't think there was anyone more devastating since George Foreman, to be honest. And before that, obviously, Sonny Liston. But anyway.
No, 100%, mate. The thing was, see, Tyson lost Customato. He lost another guy very closely called Jim Jacobs.
Yep.
There was Jim Jacobs and Bill Clayton. That was his managers. Jim Jacobs was the only other person besides Cuss that had the calming effect and power of a mic. Okay, so he lost Jim Jacobs. Don King come in and got rid of the other guy, Bill Clayton.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, the only link to Customato was Kevin Rooney. And then Don King made sure he got rid of that last link. He got rid of the last guy that might have had Mike Tyson's influence in the ear. He got rid of him. So then Mike's got no one from the Customato era. He's got Don King, who we all know what he's about.
Yep.
He's got Robin Gibbons and whoever, and he's probably got a million mates that I know for a fact that our dear friend Jeff Fennick was around Mike a lot, and he had about 100 blokes in his living room and didn't know one of them, but they were all on a wage, Lyndon.
Yeah.
So
for doing
a little
nothing.
bit like you and Bendigo, Lyndon, when you were at your best. I know you had a pretty big entourage, mate. You used to rock up to the Calibria Club with a fairly big cheer squad.
Yeah, no, I can actually say it's one thing I never liked was entourages, mate, and I still don't. I hate entourages. But let's get on to his opponent, mate, because, as I said, where's Mike Altamura when you need him? We obviously all know the particulars. There's his record there. The Brockton Blockbuster.
Mate, you've got me
Rocky
here
Marciano.
anyway.
Sorry?
You don't need Mike.
Sure, we can get through it. But Rocky Marciano, 49-0, 43 KOs, won the World Heavyweight title in 1952, retired undefeated, as you can see there. There's his biggest wins, the 8th round knockout of Joe Louis, the 2 knockouts of Jersey Joe Walcott, the 2 wins over Izzard Charles, and then the 9th round knockout of Archie Moore, inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1990. So, as you saw there, mate, 49-0. He had 7 world title fights, so he obviously won it against Walcott, defended it 6 times, then retired in 1955. So it was a really short career for Marciano. But we'll get into it when we get into the picking who we think is going to win. But probably my biggest thing with Rocky was that obviously he's got the record 49-0. But looking at those guys that he fought, he didn't really fight anyone in their prime when he fought, and this is not his fault, by the way, or maybe it is, I don't know. And good to see some colour here, by the way, I've got to say. I found some colour footage of Rocky. It's always in black and white, but
very good, Lyndon.
Jersey Joe Walcott was 39. Izzard Charles was 33, I think it was, and a blown up light heavyweight as well. Archie Moore was 43. Joe Louis was 38. We didn't actually see him in with a fellow peak fighter, and that's why I'll always argue, for me, there is a massive asterisk beside Rocky. Just get rid of the record for a second, because literally there's been a lot of fighters that could easily get up to, well, not easily, but get up to 49-0 without fighting those top fighters, and that's why
Paul Spadafora was nearly up there. He was a good fighter, 3-division champion.
Yep.
Paul Spadafora, was pretty much up there.
Yeah.
The thing is, Lyndon, every time you're going to talk to an Italian, and this isn't having to go to Italian, I've got a heap of friends that are Italians, and I love their food, pizza and pasta, and their movies. Every time an Italian's in a conversation, they're going to bring up Rocky Marciano.
Yeah.
But I will dissect them straight away. I'm not going to bag the man. He's not here to defend himself, and he's dead. Look, he's a legend, but He would not have lived with Joe Lewis, in my opinion, in his prime. He wouldn't have lived with J. Walcott, Archie Moore, or Izzard Joe, I don't think. But he didn't fight. And the thing is, too, Lyndon, he was Italian, and the Mafia played a massive part in this era of boxing.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
I heard a couple of his fights were a bit questionable.
Yeah.
And I even heard that some guys took a dive against him. And there's some really good things in the Sonny Liston book called The Night Train, and it mentions about certain things. And Blinky Palermo and that they were very much heavy in the boxing, and Frankie Carbone. You done nothing without them guys, and especially New York. So, look, I'm not gonna distinguish a guy's career, especially a guy that's not with us now. But there's always going to be question marks. He doesn't weigh up size-wise with the great heavyweights. He was tough. He threw a lot of punches. He hit you anywhere on the hip or on the arm. But they did offer him, Lyndon, and I said, they did offer him to come out of retirement and fight Sonny Liston, and he said no amount of money would bring me back to fight that man. So
I don't blame him.
No.
But as I said though, mate, like we admire Rocky Marciano. He's but I maybe it's just me. I don't understand why he's ranked so highly in the scheme of things just because he had a 49-0 record. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but
numbers should come
Lyndon,
Lyndon,
I know that you're a very easygoing guy. You take people as they are, as I do. But there is a thing called race, Lyndon, and race plays a massive part in today's society and back in yesterday's society. If he wasn't white, Lyndon, do you think we'd even know about him?
No. And he probably wouldn't have got a shot either at the time.
And I'm going to say another white man as well, Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey refused to fight black American Negroes.
Yeah.
So he refused to fight him because of race, but aren't you getting away because they're the best boxers? So you're playing the card, I'm not fighting a man because he's black, but the guy would beat you.
Yeah.
So by Jack Dempsey refusing to fight Negro fighters, then who's he fighting? He just keeps fighting bum white guys. So Dempsey and Marciano are both overrated. They don't rate in my top 10 or probably top 15. And if they both weren't white, you wouldn't even, like, I tell you, like, you can manage Johansson. I mean, look, and I'm white and I'm all for every race. But
no,
I'm just saying, they wouldn't have, they don't live up with Larry Holmes, Foreman, Ali, and look.
Yeah. But what I look at though, mate, as I said, I don't like why people it's just he's one of the greatest because he had a 49-0 record. I just don't understand that because when you look at someone like, I say, Sugar Ray Robinson, I haven't got his record in front of me, but he lost a lot of fights, but he's regarded as the best of all time. So I don't want to count in records whatsoever because Muhammad Ali is 10 times the fighter that Marciano was, and Ali lost 6 fights. So I don't want to include that.
Ray Robinson lost a lot.
He did.
Later in his career, when he was past his best, and he kept fighting. Obviously, he lived a very extravagant lifestyle, and I think he kept fighting for money. But I mean, like Ray Robinson, a lot of his fights, if you look at his record, were in the later part, which happens to everyone, Lyndon. Like, I mean, most boxers stay around too long. That's just the honest truth.
Yeah. No, you're right. But as I said, look, no disrespect. I mean, Rocky fought, I suppose, the best that were available at the time. I'm not sure whether he actually ducked anyone of note. They just happened to be the best fighters of the heavyweights of that time. But you had Archie Moore and Izzard Charles, who were both light heavyweights. You had Walcott, who was 39. Lewis was 38. I just don't understand why all the fuss, why people would say that Rocky Marciano's in the top 10. That's just because of a number, the number on his record.
And he's Italian.
But anyway, we won't, like you said, mate, we won't rain on, Rocky Marciano. He's not here to defend himself and whatever. He was good for boxing at the time. And I suppose that's that's probably the positive of it all. So that's Rocky Marciano, Mike Tyson. As I said, I probably struggled with who to put Rocky Marciano in with, because all the best heavyweights out there are all monsters. They're all 6'3" plus. So it was pretty hard. But the only one I could sort of find size-wise was Tyson, but he's probably one of the baddest heavyweights of all time.
Tyson or Joe Fraser.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but now I'm going to sort of break protocol here, Tazzy, because normally I'll let you go first. I'm going to go first because it won't take too long. Now, first of all, I've got to say I appreciate the requests that we get. It's very much, as I said, appreciated that you send them in. We've had a lot of, we've had probably half a dozen people request this fight. A lot request Rocky Marciano in general. So obviously we've given you what you asked for. However, having said that, I think when he stands across the ring with Iron Mike Tyson, who was at his peak, as I said, late 80s, early 90s, I think, Tassie, to be quite honest with you, this doesn't go 2 minutes. That's just my personal opinion. I think Tyson goes out there, they meet in the centre of the ring. Tyson uppercuts, hooks, you name it. I don't think Rocky Marciano could get out the way of those punches. He hasn't got the size to be able to withstand a Tyson barrage. And again, I'm not looking at the Tyson that fought Lennox Lewis and those types of guys. I'm looking at the ones that fought Spinks and Bruno and Pinklon Thomas and Larry Holmes. He was a bad man. And I literally think he gets Rocky Marciano out of there within 2 minutes. That's it in a nutshell. So there you go. I apologise to all the Rocky Marciano fans out there, but he does not go one round with Mike Tyson.
Do my gesture, Lyndon. Do my gesture.
He doesn't go one round. There you go. Tassie, how do you see it?
Yeah, I've got Tyson winning. I don't know if I'm going to get him out in the first round. I'll say, I'll try and give Rocky a little bit of respect for being tough.
Yeah.
And I'll say he hits the canvas in round 3. I think Tyson, a young Tyson, with all those explosive counters, head movement. I mean, Rocky's a bit more methodical, doesn't really have the X factor. Size-wise, you had to be a big guy to sort of worry Tyson and back Tyson up, and Rocky didn't have the size to do that. I'm going to be a little bit more gentle on Rocky than you were, Lyndon. And I'm going to...
Look, I'm trying not to be too harsh on Rocky. I'm only looking at it... And look, this is where you need Mike Altamura there to come up with all the facts and figures and stats and why he would have beaten Mike Tyson, I reckon. But I just cannot see it. I cannot see how he can withstand Lyndon, Mike Tyson for one round.
For your own safety, stay away from all Italian restaurants for the next couple of months.
I think I will.
All right?
Hey, I got a little bit of Italian in me myself, mate.
You got something. You don't look. I know you don't look Aussie, but anyway.
No, I'm a little bit Italian, a bit of Spanish.
I'll put something in your carbonara, mate. So, look, I've got Marciano, Tyson knocking Marciano out in round 3.
Okay, there you go. Now, to pity Pete Altamura's not. Pete Manianis is not here either, because I'm sure he'd argue with us just for the sake of arguing, just to say that Marciano would have won. But I cannot, for the life of me, as I said, cannot see how Rocky Marciano at 185 to 190 pounds. Stands across the ring from Tyson, who was a solid 220, 225, about 20 kilos heavier, or 15 kilos heavier, or whatever it might be, how he can possibly withstand the Mike Tyson of the late 1980s. He was an absolute wrecking ball, and with the head movement, the volume of punches, the power, the attitude more than anything, it was just, I just want to kill these guys. He lost that later as he went, and I just think Rocky Marciano would not know what hit him, and would wake up in the change rooms with the old smelling salts under the nose, and that would be it for Rocky Marciano, who would walk out 49-1, Tassie.
Yeah. Look, mate, I think people will get around this one, Lyndon, when you do the poll on Instagram, because people know Tyson, people know Marciano, and this will probably be a decent debate. Actually, it'll be interesting to see. Actually. Yeah.
Well, for me, as I said, we've put it up, but this is probably the most one-sided dream fight that I've seen, probably apart from Jeff Fennick, Barry McGuigan. I think that was probably the other one. But
who picked that one?
That was Mike. Mike. Yeah. That's probably our in the Hall of Fame is probably the most one-sided pick besides this one. This is taken the number one. So you got what you wanted, guys, but I'm sorry, it ends very, very badly for your man, Rocky.
So yeah, mate. Well, it's a little bit sad we're going to be off for a while, but I
Yeah,
mean,
couple of weeks off.
you know, we've had some good ones, and fuck, I had a ripper. Next one.
All right. Well, when you get back, it'll be first one up. Can you tell us who it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, bring it.
Light middleweight.
Light middleweight.
The golden boy Oscar De La Hoya versus Saul Canelo Alvarez.
It's funny you should say that because I almost went for that with this one. Actually, the other one I was going to throw in there was Miguel Cotto against De La Hoya, but this one would be even better. The ex-partners, a promoter fighter, and now the arch enemies. That would be a ripper. So that'll be our first one back.
Both got Mexico, or Mexican American for De La Hoya, but Mexico, Canelo, Mexico, light middleweight. It's a good division for both of them.
Yep.
I mean, De La Hoya was a champion at light middleweight, and Canelo, yeah. So I reckon that's a
ripper.
It's a good fight.
Love it. No, I love that one. So look out in a couple of weeks' time. Probably 2 or 3 weeks' time, it'll be Oscar De La Hoya, Canelo Alvarez. What a ripper fight that is. So, Tassie, we're going to let you get back to organising your fight for June 11th. If you're out there in Tassie, make sure you get tickets. It should be a ripper night. And, look forward to seeing how it all goes. And we'll see you back in a couple of weeks' time.
Give me some help, Lyndon. Give me some... Put your matchmaking hat back on, mate. Give me some fucking phone numbers.
I'll see what I can do.
Thanks
for coming on, mate. See you, mate.